Welcome to the Dry Etch TPT. We are two process specialists, Jonas Michael Eindhard and Barrett Herstrom, working within dry etching at DTU Nanolab. Together, we've created this Dry Etch Tool Package training course to give new users a solid introduction to the world of dry etching. For many years, this course was presented live as a PowerPoint lecture every time new users arrived. To save time and ensure that everyone receives consistent training, we have now recorded the material in a series of videos. This allows you to follow the course independently and at your own pace, while giving Barrett and me more time to focus on work inside the lab. Along with the videos, you can also download the complete PowerPoint slideshow if you want to study the material more closely. Now, why do we even use dry etching? Why do we need all this sophisticated machinery? Why not just use ordinary tools from the everyday world, things like drills, saws, chisels, or even laser micromachining systems to make micro and nano structures? The simple answer is that these tools fail for several fundamental reasons. One issue is the size. If you try to drill a hole below about a millimeter, the drill becomes dangerously fragile and is almost guaranteed to break. This limitation applies to all traditional mechanical tools. They cannot be scaled down to the micro and nano scale. Precision is another problem. Even if you had a tiny drill bit, you simply could not control its position with the accuracy required. And lastly, these tools work one structure at a time. They are serial processes. For wafer scale patterning, this is far from ideal. We would much prefer a method where an entire surface can be processed in one go, a parallel process. So we clearly need a different approach. Before continuing, it is important to understand a concept that will come up repeatedly throughout the course: the difference between isotropic and anisotropic etching. Isotropic etching means that the material is removed equally in all directions, except upward through the mask, of course. Anisotropic etching means there is one preferred direction, typically straight downward. Imagine a substrate covered by a mask with openings. In an isotropic etch, the material is removed sideways as well as downward. In an anisotropic etch is typically etching only downwards. The isotropic etch is causing undercut beneath the mask and resulting in rounded profiles. This type of etch can be useful in certain applications, but in many cases we prefer the well-defined straight profiles obtained from anisotropic etching. SEM images show this difference clearly. An anisotropic etch produces deep, vertical sidewalls, while an isotropic etch gives smooth, rounded features that extend laterally under the mask. So, how do we go from a flat, unstructured substrate to a precisely defined anisotropic feature? Since mechanical tools are not an option, we begin with lithography. In the lithography course, you learn how to define detailed patterns in a masking layer on top of the substrate. Once the mask is in place, there are several possible etch methods. One approach is wet chemical etching, where the substrate is immersed in a liquid that reacts with the exposed areas. This is simple, effective, and in some cases entirely appropriate, but wet etching is usually isotropic. There are exceptions such as KOH etching of silicon, where the etch rate depends on the crystal orientation, but these processes also come with their own limitations. Another method is pure physical etching using ion bombardment. In this case, ions are accelerated toward the surface in a vacuum chamber, physically sputtering material away. This gives directionality, but it also introduces drawbacks. The mask erodes almost as quickly as the substrate, which limits how deep you can etch. And sputtered material often redeposits on the sidewalls, which may distort the profile. The most powerful approach is dry etching using a low-pressure plasma. This combines both the chemical and the physical components we need. After the plasma etch, you can remove the mask to get the final anisotropic structure. So, what do we need to make plasma etching? We need a chemical component that comes from a gas that dissociates into highly reactive radicals that can chemically react with the substrate, forming volatile products that can be pumped away. At the same time, we need a physical component. In the plasma, charged particles can be accelerated toward the surface, adding the directionality needed for anisotropic profiles. This benefits of this combination is that plasma etching is highly tunable and capable of producing anisotropic structures across an entire wafer surface in a single parallel process. The disadvantages are that plasma tools are complex, delicate, and expensive, and the gases involved can be hazardous. This is why proper operation and safety procedures are essential parts of the course. Once your structures are etched, you will naturally want to evaluate the results. Among the interesting etch characteristics are the etch depth, the sidewalls, the surface roughness, and the etch uniformity. You may need a specific etch depth of the features. You wanted a no etch rate and how fast the substrate etches compared with the mask or an overlaying layer, which we call the selectivity. You will also examine the shape of the sidewalls. You may require vertical or angled sidewalls. Maybe you need smooth sidewalls or have small scallops or other roughness. The quality of the bottom surface can also be important, as can the condition of the mask after etching. And equally important is the question of uniformity. If your structure looks a certain way at one position on the wafer, does it look the same elsewhere? Does it look the same on the next wafer? Or the next day? Or next month? Achieving good uniformity and robustness is a key part of successful dry etching. One recipe does not meet all requirements, so you'll most likely need to optimize a recipe to meeting your priorities. The Dry Etch TPT course will not give you all the answers on how to obtain that, but will provide a foundation for your optimization. It should now be clear why understanding dry etching is important. This course is designed to give you the knowledge you need to achieve better results. The learning objectives for this course are the following. After the course, you should understand why and when to use the dry etching, and just as importantly, when another technique might be more appropriate. You will know how to operate the equipment safely so you avoid damaging your sample, the machine, or yourself. You will be able to select the right tool and the right recipe, both for your process and to avoid contaminating a tool with materials that do not belong there. And finally, once you have etched and inspected your structures, you should have an idea of how to adjust the process if improvements are needed.